Sell these 5 things now if you truly want a worry-free retirement. Picture yourself standing in your garage, the dim light casting shadows on that shiny motorcycle, fishing boat, or set of golf clubs you bought with big dreams. But now they're covered in dust, sitting silent, like ghosts of plans you never followed through on. You stare at them and wonder, how much have I spent to keep these things? Are they bringing me joy, or are they draining my retirement dreams? I'm Raymond Carter, 70 years old, living in the suburbs of Savannah, Georgia, where the whisper of ocean waves and oak-lined streets remind me that life is for living, not for carrying pointless burdens. For 33 years, I worked as a project manager for a construction company, burning the midnight oil to raise 2 kids, pay off our wisteria-draped home, and save for old age. But 14 years ago, at 56, I realized I'd been clinging to expensive things I thought would make me happy, but they were shackles instead. I sold them, retired early, and found true peace. Today, I'm sharing the 5 things you need to sell now if you want a worry-free retirement. 5 things I once called treasures, but were really traps. What's sitting in your garage or bank account, costing you hundreds a month? Are they holding you back from the free, joyful retirement you crave? Hear my story, because these lessons could reshape your financial future. And brace yourself, the last one will make you rethink every priority you've set. I realized I had to sell my expensive toys, like the $50,000 fishing boat I bought, when I stood in my garage, staring at it under a layer of dust and cobwebs, like a silent rebuke. Back when I was working, I dreamed of weekends drifting on Tybee Island's waters, the breeze in my hair, fish tugging the line. But reality? I used the boat maybe 3 times a year, thanks to endless meetings and out-of-town trips. The costs were a beast. Engine maintenance, insurance, docking fees, over $700 a month, not to mention the hours spent cleaning and checking it. When I retired, my wife Betty looked at me and asked, "Ray, is this boat your joy or your burden?" That question hit like a lightning bolt. I sold it, pocketing $28,000, a bit of a loss, but I used the money to fix our front porch, where Betty and I now sip coffee every morning. I also bought tickets for a trip to Charleston with Betty and got my grandson a new bike, things that brought real happiness, not a boat rotting in a lot. Toys like boats, sports cars, or ATVs are only worth it if you use them regularly. Otherwise, they're financial anchors dragging you away from your retirement dreams. My advice: walk through your home and list the expensive toys you own. Be honest, how often do you use them? If they're gathering dust more than memories, sell them now. Ask yourself, what could you do with that money? Travel, save, or just feel financially free? Don't let these things sink your retirement. Then I saw that expensive depreciating assets, especially RVs, were an even bigger financial trap. At 48, Betty and I got swept up in the dream of driving an RV across America, camping in Yellowstone, the Grand Canyon, or Florida's beaches. We bought a brand new RV for $90,000, picturing campfires and laughter. But after just 900 miles, the electrical system failed, the toilet leaked, and warranty repairs took 3 months because the dealer was swamped. I was stunned to learn new RVs lose value fast. Mine was worth only $45,000 after a year. When I retired, I looked at the RV used maybe a few weeks a year and thought, do I really need this to be happy? I sold it, taking a big loss, and used the money to rent an RV for a trip to the Outer Banks. Cheaper, no maintenance headaches, and we still made unforgettable memories by the ocean. A friend, Tom, taught me that well-maintained used RVs are often smarter buys than new ones if you must own one. One night, over dinner after that rented RV trip, Betty smiled and said, "Ray, I've never seen you this relaxed." My advice: if you're dreaming of an RV, rent one for 1 to 2 weeks to test the lifestyle. If you own an RV you barely use, sell it to avoid endless costs. Ask yourself, do you need to own an RV to enjoy travel, or can renting give you the experience without the stress? Choose the smart path to protect your retirement fund. One of the toughest but wisest decisions was selling our big house. When our kids, Jake and Emma, moved out to start their own lives, our 5-bedroom home with its sprawling backyard and pool became a financial and emotional weight. Maintenance costs, roof repairs, landscaping, pool cleaning, heating, ate up over $1,500 a month. Property taxes climbed yearly, and insurance wasn't cheap either. The empty rooms, once filled with the kids' laughter, now felt like echoes of a life gone by, making me feel lonely. Betty and I realized we didn't need all that space. We wanted a cozy, connected home for this new chapter. We sold the house, netting $420,000, and bought a smaller place near downtown Savannah, steps from Forsyth Park and our favorite coffee shop. The leftover money went into savings, covering travel, daily expenses, and even a knee replacement I needed last year. I once considered keeping our vacation home in Hilton Head, but the hassle of finding repairmen, soaring property taxes, and insurance costs changed my mind. Now, we rent Airbnbs when we want a getaway, cheaper, more flexible, and no property management stress. One afternoon, sitting on a park bench, Betty held my hand and said, "Ray, this little house makes me happier than our big one ever did." My advice: assess whether your home fits your retirement life. If it's too big, too costly, or hard to liquidate, downsize or sell. Ask yourself, do you need a big house to be happy, or just a comfortable space and financial freedom to live fully? Renting short-term via Airbnb or hotels can be a smart way to enjoy without being tied down. I also had to let go of our timeshare, the vacation timeshare we bought 22 years ago. When we were younger, the Myrtle Beach timeshare made planning beach and golf vacations a breeze. I thought it was a brilliant investment. But in retirement, I craved freedom to travel anywhere, anytime, maybe the Smoky Mountains, maybe a small town in Italy, without being locked into a fixed schedule. The annual maintenance fees hit $1,800, and when I tried to sell, I was offered just $2,500, a huge loss from the original $16,000. It took a year to find a buyer, but I sold it at a low price to cut my losses, and it felt like shedding a heavy chain. Now we book hotels or Airbnbs, which are more flexible, often cheaper, and free of yearly fees. One time, sitting with Betty at a seaside cafe after a self-planned trip, she laughed and said, "Ray, I've never seen you this free. No timeshare, just us in the world." That moment confirmed I'd made the right call. My advice: if your timeshare doesn't fit your retirement lifestyle, sell it now, even at a loss, to avoid ongoing fees. Ask yourself, do you really need a timeshare to enjoy travel, or do you want the freedom to explore on your terms? Prioritize flexibility to live your retirement to the fullest. The hardest lesson, and the most transformative, was changing my mindset of, I have to help my kids at all costs. I used to believe it was my duty as a father to use my savings to help my eldest, Jake, buy his first house, and my daughter, Emma, pay off her student loans. I was ready to dip into my 401k or even sell a small plot of land back home to make it happen. But one night, Betty sat me down at the kitchen table, looked me in the eyes and said, "Ray, our kids can get mortgages or student loans, but there's no loan for our retirement. If you give everything away, who's going to take care of us when we're 80? Do you want our kids to have to support us?" That hit me like a ton of bricks. I did the math. At 60, I had maybe 1,000 weeks of good health left to travel, play with my grandkids, or just sit with Betty listening to birds in the garden. If I sacrificed our financial security, Betty and I could end up dependent on our kids, something nobody in the family wanted. I still helped my kids, but within limits, like giving Emma a small wedding gift or helping Jake buy a used car for work, without touching our retirement nest egg. One family dinner, Jake hugged me and said, "Dad, I just want you and Mom to be happy and healthy. I'll figure things out, don't worry." Those words showed me I'd made the right choice. Helping your kids is noble, but not at the cost of your future. My advice: support your kids if you have extra, but don't jeopardize your retirement fund. Ask yourself, are you risking your financial future to help your kids? Prioritize your security. It's not just a gift to yourself, but to your whole family, ensuring no one has to carry anyone else. Looking back on 14 years of retirement, I've learned that a worry-free retirement isn't about holding on to as much as possible. It's about letting go of what no longer serves you to gain freedom and peace. An extra $500 to $1,000 a month in costs can derail your retirement plan, turning dreams into financial nightmares. I sold my boat, RV, big house, timeshare, and shifted how I thought about helping my kids, and it gave me a life free of worry, filled with joy alongside Betty and our family. You don't have to wait until you're broke or burned out to act. Work with a financial planner, craft a careful spending plan, and put your financial security first. Ask yourself, what are you holding on to that's blocking your retirement dreams? What in my story makes you want to change today? Don't keep those thoughts to yourself. Subscribe to Stories for Retired to discover more real stories and practical tips for a worry-free retirement. Drop a comment below. Which of these 5 things do you think you should sell now and why? Hit like if my story inspired you and share this video with anyone who needs a push to live the life they've dreamed of. Join the Stories for Retired community and start designing your future today.